Well, good afternoon. I'm glad that everyone's here and safe. So we're going to ask the mayors to come up at this time, and we're going to bring up first Mr. Tom Ellis from the city of Happy Valley, Mayor Tammy Stempel from Gladstone, Mark Gamba from Milwaukee, and Mr. Dan Holladay from Oregon City. All right, now we have all the mayors seated. Mayors, do you mind if I address you by your first name? Is that okay with all of you?
That's fine.
Okay. All right, with that being said, we're going to get started with our questions because that's why you're here. That's what you want to hear about. And our first question is going to go to Tammy. She is my mayor in Gladstone. Let's get it up for Tammy. So, Tammy, the question is, Gladstone, as well as many other cities locally and nationally, are struggling to address our antiquated infrastructure. So what's Gladstone doing to address its aging infrastructure?
Well, I think we started by having conversations with our citizens, letting them know the status that our infrastructure is in, which is horrible. We've deferred maintenance for probably 100 years. So we met with the citizens and asked them what they felt was the best steps forward. And unfortunately, that included a significant utility rate increase. We know that's difficult. That's always a hard conversation to have. But up until recently, we were actually subsidizing our utility rates and not keeping up with inflation at all. So in a nutshell, we were upside down in a really big way. Now we're committed to catching up, but every step forward, we're going to engage with the citizens and ask their help so that they'll buy in and help us make the repairs that need to be made. And of course, we're always willing to get money, so if anybody has any to give, please call me.
And because Mark Gamba is so close to me, he was reading my notes and he said, hey, dude, you forgot to give us our 2 minutes opening, which I did, because
Yes.
I'm moving right along here. I wanted to get things going. So we're going to start off and let them open up with 2 minutes. I'm going to start this way and work our way down. And so, ladies and gentlemen, from Milwaukee, Mark Gamba.
It's actually Gamba.
I know, but it's funner to say the other way.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It is finally afternoon. Thanks to Laura and Mark in the Chamber for having us here. It's always a good event. I'm sure it was particularly complicated this year with the added pandemic. We'll miss Ernie, and I need to tell you all that the only reason Wilda's not here is because I twisted her arm and made her not come. As I said when I gave my full State of the City remarks, Milwaukee is ascendant. I then had another 13 pages and 26 minutes to illustrate that, but I'll try and give you the cliff notes. We continue to work proactively to address some of the most critical issues of our time. We declared a climate state of emergency and caused our goals to become more aggressive by 5 years to match what the best scientists are telling us is required if we hope to weather the coming climate chaos. I think this current pandemic should give some folks pause to consider stronger action, because one of the things we know about climate change is that as the climate warms, diseases that were limited to the tropics by cold weather will be spreading into the cooler regions of the earth. We've also taken several actions to address climate and are partnering with really important stakeholders like PGE and doing things like smart grid test beds to make substantive changes. We finished construction on our brand new library a few months ago. This exceedingly energy efficient building is absolutely beautiful and more than 50% bigger than our old library. It provides a really fun kids area, super cool teen room, and along with a number of new meeting spaces. It will save us thousands of dollars in energy costs every year relative to the older, smaller library. We are in the process of buying an existing office building in downtown to convert to a new, much larger city hall that will be able to accommodate much more of the city staff. More to come on that. Our first SAFE projects were completed this year, and next year's projects are being designed and bid. And I'll finish the rest of this at the end.
Thank you very much, Mayor Tom Ellis.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the Chamber for having us today. It's hard to believe it's been a year since we were here last time speaking about this very subject. To say it's been a remarkable year in Happy Valley would be an understatement. I'm going to list a few things that has happened in this past year, and I'm going to begin with something that I'm sure everyone knows a little something about, and that is Clackamas County and Happy Valley settled their differences on our park dispute. We are extremely happy about that. I have to thank Representative Bynum and Representative Meek. We could not have done this without your support, so I really appreciate what you did for us. Thank you very much. We began an urban renewal plan to improve 172nd Avenue and 162nd Avenue and some other infrastructure projects in that area. We built an all-inclusive ability park in partnership with the Rotary. It has been a huge success for our city, and everybody just loves it. We started an Oktoberfest along with our Harvest Fest, so more people can come to the park and celebrate how much they like Happy Valley. We passed a police levy with almost 78% approval from our citizens for our police department. That goes to show you how much people want their police department out there. Our Superblock project, which is widening some streets, putting in some sidewalks, improving safety. The first phase is now done. The rest of the phases are in the planning and engineering stages. That should be coming very soon. We've added 2 more police officers to go along with our passing of the levy, make our citizens safer. Our Pleasant Valley North Comprehensive Plan is underway. It's about 3/4 of the way done. It's coming before the council shortly, so we can take a look at that. Our amazing youth council continues to impress all of us. We are so happy with them. But believe it or not, our library checked out more materials than any other library in the county. I will stop there.
Thank you, Mayor. And Mayor Dan Holladay, Oregon City.
And thanks again to the Chamber, Mark, and Laura for putting on this event. I think I missed last year, but so as we move forward, and thanks for the timekeeper out there, Eric. 2019 was a year full of milestones with many long-held ideas and projects put into action, such as the Malala Streetscape Project, Myers Road Extension Project, Code Amendment updates, and the Robert Libke Public Safety Facility, and the commemoration of our city's 175th birthday. We are living up to the Commission's goals of enhancing the livability of the community by allowing more housing variety in Oregon City. The community worked hard to help guide zoning code changes, which removes barriers for the missing middle housing through Equitable Housing Project. There were over 72 public meetings held that helped form amendments to the municipal code that will make it easier to create duplexes, triplexes, and accessory dwelling units, all while maintaining the high standard of living in Oregon City. In 2019, there were almost 100 single-family homes built and roughly 130 multifamily units completed. We completed over 9,000 building inspections, a 27% increase from 2018. Our community overwhelmingly supports our public safety, and the Robert Libke Public Safety Facility is on track to be completed by October of 2020, and that'll be the first all CLT building in Clackamas County. In 2020, we will see improvements in transportation planning, ADA accessibility, and bike and pedestrian safety with the construction of the Myers Road Extension Project and Malala Avenue Streetscape Project. This year begins the updates to the city's comprehensive plan, last updated in 2004. The comprehensive plan is made up of general goals and policies, which are what we would like to strive for as a community and aim to protect and maintain the quality of life and social and economic vitality of Oregon City. There will be numerous opportunities for feedback and input as we look to our community to share their thoughts of what Oregon City should look like 20 years from now. I'm glad that so many of our community members have played a part in our success, and I'm excited for what we will continue to achieve together. And I think I'll stop there and let Tammy go.
Oh, no.
And our mayor from Gladstone, Tammy Stempel.
Well, first, Christine Lewis is in the house. I think she was missed. She's in the back there. It's 2020, and that still sounds so strange. It's been 20 years since the world was going to be thrown back into the dark ages because of Y2K, but we're here. And I can tell you that Gladstone is not in the dark ages because we are busy, and I mean crazy busy. We have a new police chief, a new fire chief, both hired at the same time, and I have citizens that are fairly distrusting, and I'm sure all of you have a few of those, that are telling me that we're heading in the right direction with those departments, so I know that we made the right decision. Our Gladstone Senior Center's up and running and expanding the programs. Our city council's made communicating with the public a priority, and I think we're willing to do just about everything short of driving through town with a bullhorn to get the message out. Our citizens are involved in city business like never before. Our decisions are not being made in a vacuum any longer, and the collaboration is actually pretty wonderful. Our physical changes are exciting also. The first, and the one I'm most excited about, is our new Civic Center, which will be our city hall and our police station. And we used a progressive design build approach, which I think you all should sign up for. It was wonderful. It got this project built on schedule, on budget, absolutely wonderful. We also recently adopted a phased-in utility rate increase, which, again, as I said before, is not an easy decision, but it's something that had to be made. Our 2020 vision reflects the importance of Gladstone's connections to our neighboring communities. In Clackamas County, our cities are interdependent. I would love to say we live on an island, but we don't. We need those partnerships to be strong. We're moving on to the next steps for replacing the historic trolley trail project, which is something I'm incredibly passionate about, so stay tuned for that. And I want you to know that Gladstone is not just Gladstone, it's community, it's all of us. We're all in this together. Our city has 12,000 people, we're 12,000 strong, we are a team. And if anybody wants to join that team, call me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to say that the new police chief in Gladstone is doing some stuff because I put something on Facebook on a page, commented on someone else's about how people are speeding down a certain road, and probably 2 hours later, a police officer messaged me and said, "Would you like to go on a ride along and see how I stop people?" And I'm like, "No, am I being detained?" But no, they've really been reaching out, so I really appreciate that. So I did start the questions earlier, and if any of the other mayors have feedback on that question that they'd like to talk about their infrastructure or anything along that lines, I'll give you that opportunity at this time. But the question was, how are we dealing with our aging infrastructure? So if any of you want to comment on that, you can, and if not, I'll go on to Tom. Okay, Tom. Mr. Mayor, you mentioned the city had reached a settlement, an agreement with Clackamas County and North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District regarding the dispute. What was included in that agreement, and where do things stand right now?
Well, it's completed now. The legislature passed our bill, again, thanks to Representative Bynum and Meek, and so it's actually a finished deal. Of course, we're waiting for the check from Chair Bernard, and I'm sure that'll be coming soon. It's in the mail, I'm sure. But what it does is it returns $14.3 million to Happy Valley from the county. We receive 4 neighborhood parks. In return, the city agreed that any future annexations wouldn't take land away from NCPRD, which I think is important that they can stabilize their territory. The legislation passed unanimously. Very happy to hear that. Again, within the next 30 to 60 days, sooner hopefully, we will receive a check and the parks will be transferred to Happy Valley. By July 1st, the city will be the new parks and recreation provider for our citizens. So we are extremely happy about that. I didn't get to thank a few people that I'm going to do very quickly. I have to thank our city councilors, all of them. I have to thank our city staff, led by Jason Tuck, our city manager. Worked on this for years, very hard. I appreciate it. I have to single out one person, Council President Sherman, our financial wizard, was beside me all the way through and was instrumental in getting this through. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And now, Dan, what are some of the economic benefits to Oregon City that is coming from the Willamette Falls Legacy Project and that partnership with the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde?
We are committed to the Willamette Falls Legacy Project and leading through our multi-jurisdictional partnership with the state, county, and metro. Very soon, we will have an alternative vision for accessing the former Blue Heron paper mill from our new property owners, the Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde. In August, Grand Ronde purchased the site from Falls Legacy LLC. The Confederated Tribes of the Grand Ronde requested that the Legacy Project consider providing a riverside path to the proposed Phase 1 overlook. This new path would route visitors entirely along the river to a prominent view of the falls, instead of providing interim access through the middle of the former mill site. This approach could better accommodate the tribe's cleanup and development plans. Groundbreaking on the Riverwalk, previously expected to occur this year, has now shifted while we evaluate this approach. Willamette Falls Legacy Project partners and the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde may need to explore funding opportunities if the cost is higher than anticipated. With a new and committed property owner, we are focusing on developing a meaningful long-term relationship that can ensure the success of all four of our core values. City Commission and Tribal Council had their first meeting in over 100 years last month at the Oregon City Library. We were honored as Chairwoman Kennedy shared the tribe's history and the resilience of our ancestors. Together, we can bring some healing to a painful part of our history to move forward. We can do that by learning about the past, acknowledging what happened, and honoring the culture of the indigenous people. We are excited to have a property owner that is engaged and has dedicated time and resources toward the Riverwalk, and we look forward to collaborating with them and our partners as the alternative approach to design progresses. We are all committed to see the Riverwalk become a reality.
Thank you very much. So, Mark, the housing is a critical issue in this region. How is your community balancing the workforce housing needs in the region with the market push for more expensive homes?
Well, we're doing both. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. We have more construction, more housing being constructed or in planning phases right now than at any time in the last 40 years. And that's market rate stuff. And then in partnership with the county, we are working on expanding the housing at Hillside by basically doubling the amount of housing that's affordable housing at Hillside. We've also purchased a piece of property that was a remnant property from the light rail project that we'll be using to build affordable housing on. We also passed a construction excise tax. I think we're up to, actually I was going to talk about it in my remarks, $467,000 now in that fund, and we'll be using that in a variety of ways to both keep people in their housing if they have housing and to partner to cause more affordable housing to occur in market development. For example, the next tall building that you'll see go up in downtown Milwaukee, we are hoping to have about 10% of those units be affordable workforce housing. So we've got a lot of affordable housing being built because that's the only way it's going to be built. The third piece is the comp plan. We're well into our comp plan process. It just passed the Planning Commission on Tuesday and will be coming before council. And then the next steps will be our zoning and code amendments. As part of that, we are intending to open up our single-family housing to a lot more forms of housing, things like cottage clusters, multiplexes, row houses, things like that, that by the nature of the fact that they're less expensive to build, can be housing that, say, a young couple can get their first house in, or maybe a retired couple that's looking to downsize can afford and still stay in their neighborhood. So our goal is to have that missing middle be a part of all of our neighborhoods when we're done.
Awesome, thank you very much. So, Tom, yesterday I spent a great deal of my day in Happy Valley, and as I was driving, I kept asking myself, when does this place end? I took my dog to Shampooch because we support chamber members, and as I was driving, I kept going, I don't remember there being this much Happy Valley. So tell us, as Happy Valley continues to grow, how is the city managing that growth and how fast it's growing and maintaining the small community feel at the same time?
Well, as everyone knows, growth and change are not always easy. However, the city's inside the urban growth boundary, our role as a city council is not to stop growth, it is to plan and manage it in a smart way. And that starts with infrastructure. If we don't have infrastructure, we can't build affordable housing, we can't build commercial, industrial for jobs. So that's been a top priority for me since I became mayor. We have to have these things. The urban renewal plan for 172nd and those areas will bring in roads, parks, bike lanes, everything we need to make a city that people want to live in. Throughout the city, we're working on sidewalk improvements for safety. As I mentioned before, our super block, among others, is being worked on right now. The vehicle registration fee we're going to use for bike and pedestrian improvements, so that's coming. We have a downtown vision for our city in East Happy Valley. For many years, people have been working on or talking about a downtown for Happy Valley because we don't really have a true downtown like some other cities do. So that is in our long-term goal is to build a downtown of some sort, and that's being looked at right now. We want to continue to support our natural resources, our green space, our waterways, everything that goes along that with growth, but protect those things. So, thank you.
Thank you. So, Tammy, I know you regret this, but I do live in Gladstone. She's like, get him out. But I'm not talking about my own property that looks fantastic.
Oh, good.
What I'm talking about here is what is Gladstone doing to encourage the beautification of the community?
Well, we've got a lot of community projects that are on our plate right now, and I think every single one of them is beautifying our city. And we're finally moving forward. Instead of the old belief that if we build it, they won't come, we now feel that yes, they will. Second thing that we're doing is the police department and city council and staff are trying to pull together a pilot project called Neighbors Helping Neighbors, where we realize a lot of the beautification issues may be due to hardships, whether it be physical or financial, and we want to bridge the individuals, the city officials, and our faith community to maybe step in and help with those hardships. Helping with lawns if they need to be mowed, if your house needs to be painted, if you have some other structural issues, or you just need somebody to stop by, you know, as that support person. That's what we're doing right now, and I think that's going to really make a difference in our community because we are just a small little town. We may be in the middle of all these big, huge cities, but we're small and we really feel like we're that small town, and we just want to make sure that we're connected and supportive.
Right, and I'll tell you that I really appreciate how great downtown's looking. We got businesses down there now looking great, and I do that myself. I love my neighbors, so sometimes people ask me on Facebook, they're like, did you really mow 6 yards? Yes, because I got to get my steps in, people. So I've got elderly neighbors all around me, so I just keep mowing, and it's a blast, I can't tell you. So, Dan, do you think urban renewal has a place in Oregon City? If so, what is that role for Oregon City?
This is one of my favorite subjects. There's no question that urban renewal has a place in Oregon City, and if most of you have probably been to downtown Oregon City in the last couple of years, we won the Great American Main Street Award in 2018. All of that wouldn't have happened without urban renewal. It was the storefront grant program that really set off the renewal of downtown Oregon City. And as we move forward, we have the whole north end still to do. So as old industrial businesses move out, we need to be able to have the urban renewal there to help us redevelop the downtown Oregon City. I'm hearing rumors that Miles Fiberglass and Plastics is going to relocate all of their facilities somewhere else. So there's a big chunk of property in downtown Oregon City that we need to look at, as well as some of you realtor friends might have seen there's a current listing for the Rossman landfill site looking for tenants for this proposed thing, and we'll see whether that works out or not. But urban renewal is going to be necessary on the Rossman landfill site because we've got 50 years of the region's garbage buried there, and it's going to take about $20 to $25 million in urban renewal money to get that site to a place that it would be just like another site that had never had anything on it. So there's methane recovery, there's piles to be driven to stabilize and cap the site. We can't do any of that without urban renewal, and we're embarking now on about a 6-month project in Oregon City with urban renewal and the city commission to take a look at how the citizens of Oregon City want to use urban renewal and should we move forward, and if so, what those plans are going to be.
Excellent, thank you very much. And so continuing with the growing, Mark, how do growing communities mean we're going to have new transportation, lots of transportation. I mean, we see Milwaukee growing. So how are you dealing with those transportation demands in your city?
Well, in a variety of ways. On a more local basis, one of the big projects that we've been engaged in for the last few years is called our SAFE program. That will build out $59 million, no, 59? Anyway, lots of millions, $52 million, who knows? It'll change by the time we get there. Over 9 years of projects, it will, by the time we're done with that process, we've done the first year of construction already. We have done the engineering and we're out to bid on this year's projects. The first year, I think, got us safe routes to school to 2 schools. We'll be completing that throughout the city. So by the time we're done, we should have the only Priority 1 ADA compliant city in the state, if I understand correctly. Which means, in non-bureaucratic language, that anybody from 8 to 80 years old will be able to walk safely anywhere in our city. That's the goal. So that's just one piece. That's increasing our active transportation system so that people have options as ways to get around to the school, to the grocery store, to the park, wherever. But then I think the bigger piece that we're going to have to think about regionally, and it's what I've been working on in the T2020 committee with Metro, is what are we going to do with our regional transportation system that's going to accommodate the kind of growth that we're going to see in this region, and how are we going to seriously step up? We know that we can't widen our freeways and our roads enough to accommodate all the cars. So the only other solution then is to make sure that mass transit is far more robust and gets people where they're going on time. So that's a big piece that both Mayor Knapp from just south of here and I have been working on that committee, as well as Commissioner Bernard. It's an important piece, and we really have to think about it as a region.
Okay, thank you. Back to Dan. Dan, what is your vision for downtown Oregon City once the courthouse is relocated to the Red Soils campus?
Well, assuming the courthouse does move, and all indications are that it will, despite the failure of the legislators this year, we're going to go through a process about that, because, you know, that's kind of the courthouse is a key piece of downtown, and yet we're going to have to see what it's going to cost to do the seismic retrofit and other kinds of things to bring that building up. But we just continue to see that we have the 2 bookmarks in Oregon City, the Rossman landfill at the north end and the Willamette Falls Legacy project at the south end. And we're working all through the downtown to continue to use urban renewal and other funds to continue to upgrade downtown and to bring new businesses in. And certainly the Downtown Oregon City Association and the Chamber of Commerce have both been real partners in making that happen. And I did want to say that we recently just hired our new economic development manager, James Graham, who's with us today. And James has been worked nationally, regionally, at the state level, and now at city level in economic development over 25 years. So we're really encouraged to have James on board and lead our economic development drive.
Excellent, thank you very much. Tom, Happy Valley voters, as you said earlier, approved the police levy this past election. This was, I think, the 5th time the city has passed a police levy. Can you explain why the city needs a levy and there's just not, or their plans to provide permanent funding?
Yeah, sure. When Happy Valley was incorporated, obviously it was a much smaller city than it is today. And the goal then was to keep taxes low, which I don't have a problem with that. However, as we grew, Measure 5 and 50 locked in Happy Valley's tax rate at 67 cents per thousand, one of the lowest in the states. In comparison, Milwaukee, Gladstone, and Oregon City all about $4 a thousand. So what that did is it forced us to go out for levies for police and other things, because at 67 cents a thousand, it wasn't enough to provide everything we needed. The entire police force is subject to a vote every 5 years. We have to go out for a levy. that the people, thankfully, have voted for every time except one, and then they did do it on the second time around. The council and I have given direction to our city staff to explore what we can do to get permanent tax rates for this, so we don't have to keep going out for a levy every 5 years. The solution might be levies of longer duration, 10 years possibly, or specifically, we could maybe have a bill in the legislature that would allow us to have a permanent tax rate. We plan to work with our legislatures to try to see if this is an option that we could do so that the 5-year levy or 10-year levy would go away and we would have permanent financing.
Thank you very much. So there's been a lot of talk on transportation, so this sort of is for all of you. I'm going to read this question. It says, local transportation issues. How do we responsibly deal with transportation needs when some leaders and advocacy groups are demanding that there be absolutely no roads built? Does anyone want to take that one?
Can you repeat that?
Sure, I will. How do we responsibly deal with the transportation needs when some leaders and advocacy groups are demanding that no roads be built?
Well, I'll take a little bit of it. I don't think we need transportation. We need roads to get goods and services to market, to get people to their houses. Yes, mass transit, bicycles, all those things are part of that. We have to have all that. But we need good transportation and roads to get, like I said, goods and services to market. We have a large area in our southern part of Happy Valley that's industrial and commercial. But if we don't get the Sunrise Corridor built, the only thing it's going to grow is grass, because businesses are not going to relocate there because they can't get their trucks and everything they need in and out of there. So, yes, I believe that we need all forms of transportation, but we do need good roads.
I'll take a crack at it too.
Okay.
I understand where those people are coming from. They have deep concern that we as a region, as a state, as a nation are not remotely doing what we should be doing to address climate change at the level we need to be addressing it. And they know that transportation, gasoline, diesel-powered transportation is one of the biggest parts of that. So their concern is you build more roads, more people will drive. It's basic math. That said, there are certain areas that we very wisely here in Oregon have limited growth of our cities so that they don't cover entire regions like they do, say, in Atlanta or Los Angeles. However, it still means that we're going to have to build roads that are appropriate to the growth within that urban growth boundary. It's why I helped broker a deal between those folks who have those concerns and people on the other side of the conversation around the Sunrise Corridor, where we adjusted the design of that corridor so that it was very transit-centric, I guess is the best way to say it, that we had dedicated in that design that there would be bus-only lanes so that the bus will be the fastest way to get places on that road. Had we done that early on with a lot of our roads, we would have less congestion than we have now. If you could get on the bus and get there faster than you can sitting in your car in a bunch of traffic, you'd probably do it more often than not. So that's that kind of forward thinking in our transportation systems is going to hit that happy medium of continuing to grow responsibly while aggressively and intelligently addressing the climate needs.
Thank you.
I'll say something.
Tammy, go ahead.
My best advice would be to have those people take my commute for 2 weeks. I commute from Gladstone to Sherwood every day, twice a day, sometimes multiple times a day because of my mayor meetings. I'd like them to sit out there or drive in their cars and spend an hour and 15 minutes on a good day, 3 hours on a bad day, twice a day. And then when there's an accident on Abernathy Bridge, have them come and drive through Gladstone and West Lynn and Oregon City, and you're going to see why those roads are necessary. And I understand that we have to be thoughtful in our transportation growth, but we also have to be realists. Those people are on the roads, and we have to find ways for them to get around.
And I agree with Mayor Stempel wholeheartedly. We have our business in Canby, and so I commute to Canby a couple times a day, every day of the week. About a month ago, there was a major accident on I-5 in Wilsonville that literally shut down northbound I-5 for hours. And I was coming from a meeting in Oregon City going towards Canby, and I said, well, that's unusual. There's a little backup here. And the backup literally went from the tunnel in Oregon City all the way to downtown Canby. So 5.5 miles of backed up traffic trying to go north. So we need to have a western bypass. Oregon City is continuing to build roads, continuing to things like the Malala Avenue project where we're integrating transit and pedestrian and bike. But we also have to realize that TriMet's doing a really poor job serving the outer areas of the Portland region. Certainly, Tammy couldn't possibly take TriMet to Sherwood to go to work.
Absolutely not.
And so either we need to encourage TriMet to actually do their job and provide transportation outside of downtown Portland, or we need to think about maybe doing what Sandy and Wilsonville and other areas have done and take over that transportation system ourselves.
Okay, well, we've got questions here, but a lot of them are for Tammy and Dan, so I'm just going to go with them here.
No.
Tammy and Dan, when the walking and bike bridge is complete between Gladstone and Oregon City, what are their plans in place to keep it from becoming a partying area and a homeless camp?
Well, to start, I'll go with the homeless camp first. We just passed a new set of ordinances about camping and homelessness in Oregon City, and so we had, I think, in Clackamas County, the first dedicated officer dedicated to homeless liaison work. That officer since moved into a detective role, and we have a new officer that's doing that stuff. So when I get a complaint about a homeless camp, the first thing I do is call the police department and say, get the guy over there and see what's going on. And we clean stuff up as soon as we possibly can. The High Rocks Bridge has been a partying spot for generations.
It's rite of passage.
I'm sure Ginny was down at High Rocks back in the day. So, what Gladstone's done a great job in having AMR down there and enforcing that, and Oregon City certainly participates, but it's just one of those, what do we call them?
Attractive nuisance.
Attractive nuisance, that's what you want. That is going to be there, you just have to deal with it the best way you can.
Yeah, our police department is very community focused. We don't really have a homeless problem in Gladstone yet, but when we do run across those instances, the police are on it right away, and they're not abusive in any way. They're very,
Friendly.
pardon?
Friendly.
Friendly, there you go. We deal with it right away, just like Oregon City does. And I've heard before that if we build this bridge, that it's going to become this haven of homelessness and vagrancy and graffiti, and I absolutely don't think that's going to happen. This bridge is going to be so highly used and embraced by both communities that we're just not going to let that happen. There's no way.
Thank you. And I'll say that during the summertime, I know that the partying has gone way down because with the AMR lifeguards there, sometimes people realize that we have direct communication with law enforcement, and we remind them drinking and diving off a rock is stupid. And so it helps stop some of that.
Yeah.
So
Hey, y'all, watch this.
I'm just going to say it. And this next question is for everyone. It says, tell us about one of your city's greatest accomplishments and one of your largest challenges. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first. Our greatest challenge has always been growth. We're one of the fastest growing cities in Oregon, and anytime you grow that fast, you're going to have challenges. Everybody has a little different idea on how growth should happen, so we're always having challenges with that. One of our greatest triumphs, I think, is in the midst of all this growth, we've been able to continue to keep a small hometown feel to our city. And that's very important to me, that we have a central park of concerts in the park, Oktoberfest. Everything we do in that park is just, people just love it. They come out all the time in the nice weather and even in the bad weather sometimes, because they just feel Happy Valley is just a small town city, and that's the way we're going to keep it.
I'll take it. So I would say one of the biggest challenges we've had is, as the popularity of Milwaukee and frankly of the metro region has grown, the cost of housing has risen so fast that people who have lived there their whole lives, I mean, Milwaukee's a blue-collar town, right? It's where the cops lived and the nurses lived and the grocers lived and the working folks. And the cost of housing has risen so fast that a lot of those people lost their homes either to dramatic rent increases or no-cause evictions, which we tried to put some rails on that and then helped get some laws passed at the state level. Thank you, legislators, to help with that. But the fact is that there's that many more people living in the metro region, and there's not as much housing being built to keep up. So you're going to have this musical chairs situation where people are going to get pushed off. That's why I talked a little bit about all of the work that we're doing. One of our two top goals is affordable housing, and that's why we've put so much effort into partnering with the county, into creating that CET. We're all going to have to be doing things like that if we're going to keep up with the situation and not end up with more folks who are working full-time who end up homeless because their full-time pay just doesn't cover the rent that went up another 10% this year. I mean, we talk, even with the law that we passed in the state, right? It limits rent increases to 10% a year. Well, if that happens 4 years in a row, that's 40%. I don't know any of you out there, but I've never seen a 40% raise in 4 years. And I think there are folks that are living on the bitter edge all the time, and those kinds of increases are just going to make them homeless.
Thank you. Dan, Tammy?
Well, I'll start with successes because I like positive things. So the Robert Lewicki Public Safety Facility, the first CLT building in Clackamas County, that's a really exciting thing for us. It's the first time in 175 years that Oregon City has built a purpose-built police station. And that will also include a new court facility, and it will contain the Oregon City Commission chambers. On the other side, we're building a new public works facility at the site where Columbia Distributing moved out. And so that contains all of the things we need. We can put almost all of our vehicles inside. We'll have room for a construction base and all those things. So in the time that I've been mayor, we've built a new library, we're building a new police station, and we will have built a new public works facility. So I consider those big successes in moving our city's infrastructure forward. We won't need to build anything new for Oregon City probably for another 20 or 25 years. So I'm going to leave it successes.
Well, then I'll just dive deep into challenges. For us, the biggest challenge is infrastructure. It's balancing the need with the capability of our citizens to be able to absorb those costs. The majority of our citizens are low to severely low income, so that is a huge hit. And then when you layer on all of the taxes and bonds that are coming down to us from the state, federal, metro, county, it is becoming very obvious to us that we have to find another way because this is just not working for our people. As far as our accomplishments, I'm going to say it's our Civic Center. We have not built anything new, I swear, for 100 years, and we needed this building so desperately. We want a place where people are happy to come and connect. So I'm so happy that we had the right staff in place, our city administrator, Jackie Betts, that could take that on and run with it and build what I think is just going to be an amazing facility, which you will all be invited to.
And soon, right?
April 18th? April 22nd.
22nd. Okay. We have one last question, unless anyone else has got a question. Anyone out there got a question now? Who'll give me a question now? Hit 5. Nothing. Oh, come on. I was joking. No, I'm just kidding. So this question is for Dan. How do you intend to provide water to all the proposed developments that Oregon City wants to accomplish?
Water?
Water.
Wow, I didn't know we had a problem with water. As vice chair and will be chair next year of the South Fork Water Board, we have a great supply system in place. And South Fork is, I think, the only municipal utility in the state that is currently debt-free. So we owe nobody any money. We're operating great. And as far as getting the pipes from, say, Beaver Creek Road and 213 to the rest of that thing, we have plans in place for infrastructure to get that stuff done. We're currently working on the engineering, and we'll be moving those pipes in further. But I don't think we really have a problem with water infrastructure.
Okay, and then there's a secondary question that says, what anchor store has been accepted for the mall on Beaver Creek Road?
Mall on Beaver Creek Road.
That's what it says. What anchor store has
Oh,
been?
this is a Facebook question. The fact is that we don't, the city doesn't pick anchor stores. We don't pick stores at all. It's the market drives that. A store or a business comes in and says, this market works for me, and so we're going to build out. We just opened a Hobby Lobby in the place where the old Albertson store was, along with the Planet Fitness. But like you see on Nextdoor on Facebook, if there's an empty building, there's 75 people out there saying, oh, it's going to be this, or we need to have a Trader Joe's, or, this and that. But that isn't how it works. So to answer your question, I don't know what mall we're talking about, but until somebody pulls a permit, we don't know.
Okay, and I don't know what you did, but people are coming at you right now.
Far away.
Didn't show up last year.
Yeah, it's like, well, that's what it says. Dan, because he didn't show up last year. It's just, no,
You're making up for it.
it says, has any process been made?
Progress.
Has any progress? What did I say?
Process.
Oh, progress been made with a developer to build out on the second phase of the Cove project.
Cove, yeah.
No.
There you go.
Can't
That
answer.
was a simple question. Simple answer.
Hey, you wouldn't have to know Sarah Ross, because when I'd ask her a question, she'd just always say no. Well, that's all of our questions. Unless anyone's got another one, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do closing statements, and we're going to go. Let's go.
Start at that end and come this way.
Yeah, let's go, Tammy, down this way.
Me first. All right, so the question was, in what ways do you feel your community is providing leadership for the region? The question that was posed. Gladstone is finally adopting a regional perspective instead of hiding behind locked doors. We're a team player, and we realize that we need to cooperate with the surrounding cities in order to solve our collective issues. That hasn't always been the case, and building that trust back hasn't been easy, but being a part of this great group of elected officials and solving our problems with respectful discussion, sometimes debate, is what I'm most proud of. We value and empower our advisory groups, both internally and regionally. We know that a dialogue with people across the spectrum gets a much better outcome than a decision dictated by one. And with this approach, we've crafted a vision for our city that is inclusive and collaborative and goes way beyond our borders. We realized early on that plans on paper are great, but the real value is in tangible changes. So we focused on those projects first with the help of our regional partners. This approach allows us all to do more with less by making the most of our collective resources and constantly assessing efficiencies and strategic partnerships. We look outside our city to see what we can do to support the whole. We know it's critical to look out for everyone. This has to include good education, good services, livability, environmental impacts, promoting social integration, and providing affordable housing. The real connection needs to be regionally, locally, and even next door. The sense of community has to be strong to thrive, and we are so lucky that our community is much larger than Gladstone. So how does our community provide leadership for the region? Our Clackamas County community is providing leadership by being the examples of what collaboration, communication, accountability, and transparency can do to create a region we can all be proud of. And you guys, it's working, so let's keep that going.
Well, I somehow missed the closing section on my papers here, so I'll just say thanks to the Chamber and to all of you for coming. We really appreciate the opportunity to talk about certainly Oregon City and the place Oregon City plays in the region. Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, thank you. Well, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, Happy Valley's had a heck of a year, really have. If the work wasn't enough, we have high hopes for the future. Some of the projects we're going to work on in the future is following the settlement with Clackamas County. The park settlement means we're going to start our new programs for Happy Valley. We're hoping to partner with many local businesses to provide recreation programs. Anytime we can do a private-public partnership, I think it's a good deal. We're going to make improvements to Happy Valley Park, such as new turf fields. Very important. Starting a community center feasibility study is on the list. Evaluating land for future community parks. Not just Parks and Rec, though. We're going to finish our Superblock project, which I mentioned earlier. That is underway. Kickstart improvements to 172nd Avenue and the surrounding area. Finalize our Pleasant Valley North Comp Plan, which is about 3/4 of the way done. We're going to work on that. Our library is doing such an exceptional job, it needs to be expanded. So we're looking at making that bigger. Purchase land for a public works facility. We're growing so much that we've outgrown our public works facility, so we're going to need a new one. We're exploring options for that. Convene a task force, which we're working on right now, to develop a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan. Very important to our city. We're going to explore a climate action plan, review development standards, make sure we're doing things the right way. Develop options to permanently fund our police and parks, which I talked about earlier. Thank you.
The question had to do with regional leadership, right?
Yeah, what ways do you feel your community is providing leadership for the region?
In a handful of ways. I think Milwaukee, we passed one of the strongest climate action plans in the state when we passed it, and when we updated it recently with our climate emergency, it became probably the strongest climate action plan in the state. And we're doing that work and sort of disproving the theory that you'll damage your economy or hurt business by doing the work that you need to do. Quite to the contrary, we have more interest in Milwaukee than we've ever had before from business and developers. The other piece that we're, I think, leading on is the construction of affordable housing and the work around keeping both our neighbors that are less fortunate and making sure that we accommodate the growth. On a per capita basis, I think we're building, or in the planning stages actually, for building more affordable housing. And again, it's creating the example that you can do that and you can accommodate those folks and that work and not destroy the fabric of the city. And I would actually argue that it maintains the fabric of the city, because the alternative is that the folks that have lived there all their lives end up having to move someplace else, and new people move in, which is probably more destructive to the fabric of the original city in the first place. And I think those are critical pieces that are often neglected, because it feels like it's will somehow damage the city. And I would argue exactly the opposite. So those are our two big pieces, but I think our SAFE program is another good example. That investment of $52 million is 1/3 of our annual budget for an entire city. And for a small city like ours, again, a blue-collar city, to invest at that level to build out its active transportation infrastructure, its sidewalks, its safe routes to school, is a big deal. And it's, again, it disproves the model that in making those kind of investments is somehow going to hurt the city. I was told when I first proposed it on council, I was a brand new councilor, that oh, that would cost $30 million, and we can't ever afford that, we can't do it, straight up. And with a new council, not only are we doing it, but we're doing more than was originally planned. And it's attracting people. People are excited. People are choosing Milwaukee because of the work we're doing.
Well, that was our last question. And we want to thank all the mayors. Let's give the mayors a hand for coming out and speaking with us today.